Popular depictions of the prehistoric Megalodon usually present it as just a supersized version of today's great white shark. Swiss naturalist Louis Agassiz helped establish this popular view back in 1843, when he classified the extinct giant as Carcharodon megalodon, placing it in the same genus as the great white. Agassiz based this on anatomical evidence. Fossilized megalodon teeth and those of modern great whites share a nearly identical triangular shape and a heavily serrated edge. Modern paleontology has since moved the two sharks into entirely separate families. Their lineages split during the early Cretaceous period, more than 100 million years ago. This reclassification clarifies the megalodon's actual history. It represents a biological lineage that spent millions of years refining its specialization as a marine mammal hunter, only to arrive at an evolutionary dead end. The great white shark actually evolved from the broad-toothed mako shark roughly 4 million years ago. The megalodon belongs to the Otodontidae family, starting 60 million years ago with the ancestor Otodus obliquus. It developed as a chronospecies, shifting its physical form over time rather than branching. It transitioned through several stages, like auriculatus and chubatensis, before finally reaching the megalodon form. This 12 million year transition followed a change in the ocean's food supply. Whales and other massive marine mammals were becoming the dominant prey source. The megalodon's lineage responded to the rise of these whales by overhauling its anatomy to suit a new predatory lifestyle. Over millions of years, the teeth grew wider, serrations finer, and early lateral cusps were lost. This structure replaced a tearing bite with a specialized cutting bite, engineered to shatter bone and puncture the protected lungs of large whales. Hunting massive endothermic prey also required a metabolic upgrade. The megalodon evolved regional endothermy, or mesothermy, warming its blood above the surrounding ocean temperature. This internal heating fueled an increase in swimming speed and an explosion in body size, with individuals reaching 10.5 meters in length. If these two sharks occupied different branches of the family tree, why did they end up with the same tools? This is convergent evolution, the process where unrelated predators independently develop similar traits because they are adapting to the same environmental challenges. Both lineages needed a heavy, serrated blade to cut through mammalian blubber. Natural selection independently forged the megalodon to dominate the warm, whale-rich oceans of the Miocene epoch. By the Miocene, the megalodon had reached the peak of its specialization, operating as the undisputed apex predator of its ecosystem. Then, starting 3.5 million years ago, the global climate shifted. The onset of the ice ages began rapidly cooling the world's oceans. Falling sea levels destroyed the warm, shallow coastal waters the sharks required for their nurseries. Meanwhile, baleen whales adapted to the cold and migrated toward the polar regions. The megalodon, tied to warmer water, was stripped of its primary food source. New, smaller competitors also arrived. Macroraptorial sperm whales and the modern great white shark began competing for the dwindling supply of food in warmer waters. The megalodon's greatest biological successes, its massive size and high metabolism, became its primary liabilities. It could no longer find enough calories to maintain its specialized anatomy. The megalodon remains a clear example of how extreme biological specialization can become a vulnerability. When the planet changes, even the most successful predators can vanish along with their environment. Imagine pulling this from the dirt, a heavy, serrated triangle of solid stone, sharper than any tool used by your ancestors. We recognize this as a tooth belonging to the megalodon, a 50-foot apex predator that has been extinct for millions of years. But for the first humans who found these, concepts like deep time or biological evolution did not exist to explain them. Across the world, people were unearthing the massive, terrifying remains of a world they didn't recognize. They needed a way to make sense of these anomalies using the logic of their own time. This birthed geomythology, the practice of using geological evidence to build cultural legends, turning prehistoric fossils into worshipped artifacts. Isolated civilizations were unearthing identical clusters of massive bones at roughly the same time. In China, farmers found these bulbous, oversized molars in the earth. Without a living animal to match them to, they concluded these were the remains of dragons and ground the dragon bones into medicinal powders. In Greece, the sea would occasionally wash away beaches to reveal massive mastodon kneecaps. To the locals, these were the literal bones of Homeric heroes like Ajax. Early cultures didn't ignore the fossil record, they incorporated it into their world, shaping these discoveries to fit their regional anxieties and medical needs. The Megalodon tooth traveled through the human imagination for thousands of years. Pre-Columbian Native Americans utilized the sharp edges of these fossils as ceremonial trade goods and valued burial accessories. In the 1st century, the Roman author Pliny the Elder named them glossopetrae, or tongue stones. He claimed they were mineral objects that fell from the sky during lunar eclipses. By the Middle Ages, the legend shifted. In Malta, fossils found in these limestone cliffs were believed to be the petrified tongues of serpents, cursed by St. Paul. During the Renaissance, European nobility wore these teeth as amulets or dipped them into wine, believing the stones could detect and neutralize poisons. For centuries, these objects were used as a practical defense against the period's constant fear of being poisoned. In the 1600s, the folklore surrounding the tongue stones began to give way to a new focus on physical observation. The naturalist Fabio Colonna tested the fossils by fire. He observed that they burned like organic matter rather than minerals, suggesting they were once part of a living thing. In 1666, the Danish anatomist Nicolas Steno was sent the head of a massive great white shark caught near the Italian coast. Steno compared the teeth of the modern shark to the fossilized tongue stones and found that the serrations and geometric shapes were identical. Steno and the artist Agostino Scilla reached a conclusion that bypassed myth. These objects were the biological remains of animals from an ancient ocean that had long since vanished. This scientific reality, a warm-blooded, whale-eating shark of impossible size, was every bit as remarkable as the dragons of folklore. The ancient worship of giant teeth was humanity's first attempt at reading a story written in the rocks, long before we had the tools to translate it.